Scenes of a desperate situation still playing out in Afghanistan this morning. Survivors of yesterday's deadly earthquake digging with their bare hands to try to reach anyone still alive beneath the rubble. The earthquake near the border with Pakistan killed at least 1,000 people and injured more than 1,500 others. Those numbers are expected to rise, though, as more information comes in. Let's go to Salima Shivji in London. She is following the latest developments, and we're starting to get a clearer and clearer picture, Salima, of the true extent of the damage this morning.
That's right, Heather, a better picture of what's happening, but still it is really hard to know exactly how many victims, as you mentioned, are suffering because of this earthquake, because of really how remote this mountainous region is on the border with Pakistan, near the epicenter in Paktika province in southeastern Afghanistan. Of course, it's a remote area. Homes there built of mud, and really they were no match for that powerful earthquake, the 6.1 magnitude earthquake, where we saw entire villages being flattened as it hit. Many people, as you say, trapped in the rubble. So the number of casualties, the number of injured, the victims here very much expected to rise. Add to that, in terms of the difficulties for the rescue effort, is the weather. There were really heavy rains overnight. There was flooding as well as mudslides, landslides in the area, really hampering those people trying to rescue those who are injured and trapped under the rubble. Some people desperate for shelter, just huddling in their collapsed homes. They don't have tents yet. There's a lack of food and of clean water as well. I spoke with the World Food Programme's head of the coordinator on the ground in Kabul of the Afghanistan unit. They've sent a convoy of aid trucks today to get to this remote area, but they do know that the rescue efforts will be tricky, and really this is a race against time. Take a listen.
You can imagine these settlements. You can travel miles before you see another settlement, and they also might be deeply affected. These are really remote areas, and some villages could be separated by 2 to 3 hours of travel. The roads are not paved. They're really difficult to traverse.
And in some cases, you have to only go on foot and walk between those villages. So international aid is on its way, but a lot of people worried about the timing in this, in terms of getting to those victims as quickly as possible.
Well, that question of international aid is key here because, of course, the international community largely left the country last year after the Taliban regained control, and now the Taliban is looking for help. But what is it asking for?
That's right. It's very much asking for international aid, pleading with the international community to send help here, to send supplies and to help in this catastrophe. Because, as you mentioned, of course, foreign aid very much dried up when the Taliban took over nearly a year ago now. And they do say that this response to the earthquake is very difficult for them. This is the worst type of earthquake to hit the country in at least 2 decades. It's already one of the poorest countries in the world. The Taliban rulers, of course, struggling to cope. There are very few, even helicopters left in the area, and to get the victims out of the area, there's about 6 helicopters that are airlifting supplies and trying to get victims out of the area. Those are the only ones that the Taliban has. The others were disabled as the Americans left the country. So the Taliban says they don't have the proper resources, in part because of economic sanctions as well. Foreign assets have been frozen because, of course, they've become international pariahs. The United Nations says that its teams are fully mobilized and ready to help short term, but of course the country is already grappling with a severe humanitarian crisis. There was a drought. Millions of people are going hungry because of the economic squeeze since the Taliban took over. So this is yet another crisis that the country is dealing with, and the people in that area, of course, already suffering.